Hello, I'm Faye.
And I'm Becky. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about maximising your potential as a leader and living your best life personally and professionally.
So join us on the M53 for our weekly chats, full of insights and inspiration, and of course, a cuppa and a butty.
Faye, it's called a brew.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the podcast. Special because Becky and I are actually in person.
I'm here.
We're here together.
On the opposite side of the table.
We've got a lovely little camera that's like not a camera at all, it's a microphone. Sat in the middle of our table in a pub stroke restaurant-y kind of place. And we've just had our Meet Me on the M53 Christmas party. And we haven't even had any alcohol and we're laughing.
It could have something to do with the fact that we are coming from the middle of a pub.
Absolutely.
Here we are.
But we thought it would be good fun. And we've just sat debating for the whole lunch. Do we record the podcast at the table, or do we go and sit in the car, or do we just scrap the idea completely and just go home and do it? But no, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And we're trying not to speak too loud because obviously there are other people in the pub. But I'm not sure how long this podcast is going to be, but we are going to talk about setting intentions for 2022 and why it's a great time to do it, or maybe it's not a great time to do it in January. We're going to discuss that and our thoughts around that, aren't we, Becky?
We are.
We are, because I know as a business owner that online everyone's talking about setting your goals for 2022. And I know that over the Christmas period, even though we're recording this before the Christmas period really starts, I know what will happen over the Christmas period. It's all we're going to see online. People are going to be talking about planners, setting your goals and intentions, getting really fired up for what you're going to do next year. And some people are going to do that. And other people are going to be sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. Should I be doing this? Do I want to do it? Have I got to do it? And there's a kind of pressure. And you're thinking that everybody's doing it. And the reality is that everybody isn't doing it at all. And if I talk about my take on this, I have spent my whole career talking to businesses about planning. And I do believe in business plans. Don't get me wrong. I know that they're an excellent communication tool for actually communicating with your people what the business wants to achieve, who's involved, what it means. And when we break it down, we know what we want to get out of what we're looking to do. Everybody has an understanding of that, and that's great. However, does it need to be done in January just because it's the start of the year? No, I don't think it does. And I have spent many Christmas holidays. I think there's a party in the background, can you hear? I've spent many Christmas holidays reading other people's posts about how they're planning, how they've bought their new planners, which are beautiful. They've bought their planner, they're planning for the year, and I have sat there thinking, I've got nothing to say about my plans. And that's because, to be honest with you, in January, my plans are not very different to what they are in December. And they're not that different to what they were in November. But they might be mightily different to what they were in January last year. But that's because, as a person, I've grown, I've adapted, I've changed. My thoughts and ideas have changed. I've done more training and development to develop myself, my business. And I might want to go in a slightly different direction. And I might have decided to make that change. It doesn't just happen in January. I don't just decide to do that in January. Becky's sitting here so quiet because she doesn't want to speak. She doesn't want to speak on the podcast in the pub. We're going to make her talk now. What are your thoughts, Becky?
I do want to speak on the podcast in the pub. I've gotten over that now, Faye. Thank you. I'm here. I'm with you. Yeah, do you know what? Because I've been terrible for like years and years and years in terms of, right, my New Year's resolution. I love a good New Year's resolution. It's always out the window by the middle of January. And the same happened, this is only the second January in business for me. But the same happened last January. Because I'd set all these goals and these intentions, and then we were put into lockdown again. And I had my daughter at home again. And so everything that I had planned for January and February just completely went out the window, because my priorities were different. And all I then end up feeling is that I failed at something that, because I think I should be setting a goal and intention. I think I should have these resolutions. I think I should have all these changes, and it seems to be that the bell tolls midnight on New Year's Eve, and we think that everything's going to be magically different. And guess what? Unless you start doing things differently, nothing's actually going to change. There's nothing magical about that bell that means that when it goes off, things are going to be different for you. And too often, and I'll hold my hands up with this, but too often we see people who just do this really half-assed, and they do it because, as Faye said, they think it's what they should be doing. They think they should be setting goals. But yeah, I think we're calling BS on this, right? Because
we're calling BS on it.
Because
definitely.
Why do we need to do that in January? Absolutely, goals are great, and goals are really important. They give you something to work towards. They help you think about your strategy, because how are you going to get there, and you make sure that what you're doing is aligned to your overall goals. There's nothing that says that needs to happen in January just because everyone else is setting them in January.
I mean, there is the point to make that the planners come out just before January, but they start in January, don't they? I'd just like to tell you that I've bought countless planners, and I do remember writing in one of them. I got one for 2021 that is completely blank. I did take the cellophane wrapper off it. It's beautiful. 2021 I did write in. I did start using it, but I didn't continue using it. I bought one in 2019 and I didn't use that. That was an A4 one, and I actually used it as a notepad in 2020. We don't have to buy the planner. And in fact, now all I do is I set up a Trello board. I use my diary. That's my Bible. I put stuff in there, which is online, which is digital. And I use Trello boards now for everything. Becky and I have got a couple of shared Trello boards. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. And I just dump stuff in there. And I use that really for how I would use a planner. And I've got spreadsheets for sort of performance goals and stuff like that, objectives and stuff like that. But yeah. Well, we think we've got to start our grand plans in January because the planners come out and we're, new pens, best writing, all of that.
Best writing,
Becky. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I haven't used a planner because I haven't had a pen I've thought might look nice in the planner. And my writing's
terrible.
Faye?
That does not surprise me about you at all.
I know.
Not at all.
No, I know. I mean, resolutions are another thing. We've been primed to make our New Year's resolutions since the year dot, and I've only ever made one, and I did stick to it. And that was when I hadn't been to the dentist for a few years, and I made a New Year's resolution that I would go every 6 months. And actually, up until lockdown, I did go last July, but I haven't been since. But up until then, I kept that resolution. But I couldn't be doing with making a resolution, and people would say, have you made your New Year's resolutions this year? What are you going to be doing? I'd say, I don't know. But actually the truth is, no, I can't be bothered to make a New Year's resolution because if it's something I really want to do, I know that I'll do it anyway. I don't have to make a resolution about it. And if I don't want to do it, well, why pretend that I'm going to do anything that I know I'm not fully committed to? It's not going to happen.
No. But what about the people that are listening who are thinking, well, actually, I quite like January. I like January I like it as a reset. It's a new year. I like the idea of opening up my shiny new book. All the pages are blank, and it's my opportunity to fill them for the year.
I think that's brilliant.
So, what is our advice to those people who actually they do want to set meaningful goals?
Do it,
and it just happens to be in January.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. And when you're thinking about those goals, break break them down. I think that's the biggest thing for me that I see for where people go wrong, and fall off the wagon with whatever the goal is. You set this big goal, but you don't actually figure out the steps to get there. Because normally within a bigger goal, there's lots of little goals that need to be hit to get there. And within each of those little goals, there could be like half a dozen steps to get you there. So take the time to break it down. Make it practical. I do love a good bit of practicality, and that includes in goal setting. Make it practical. Make it work for you. Don't set a goal that you're going to start working out 5 days a week at the gym when already you're really struggling for hours in the day. Make it that you'll do 3 half-an-hour workouts from home, whatever. That's obviously a personal one. But in your business, it's great if you set a goal to have a 7-figure year. If you've not hit 6 figures yet, you might end up a bit disappointed with yourself if you haven't put all those steps in place to help you meet those targets.
Yeah. It is about exactly what you want to achieve. It's about, Becky's absolutely right. If you're going to set goals, make sure you understand why you're setting them in the first instance. What do you want to get? What's the end result? Where do you want to be? And then work it backwards, break it down and all of that. But also as well, make sure that your goals are realistic. I see a lot of talk again online about, successful people have morning routines.
Ugh.
Now, I'm only laughing because there's no way in the world that I'm going to ever have a morning routine, because it's as much as I can do to get out of bed in time to, get up, get showered, get dressed, get my son off to school. And I like it when I am, but it's that whole getting out of bed thing for me. I'm a night owl, so I don't necessarily go to bed early. So I do like my sleep. So there's no way in the world that I'm going to cut time off my sleep to have a morning routine. I push it to the last minute for getting up. So make sure it's realistic. Make sure it's something you really want to do. Because if you think, if you're like me, you think, I don't actually think that successful people have a morning routine. They may do, they might not.
Well, some will. Some won't.
Exactly. Some will.
Let's face it,
some
not
won't.
cut and dry.
But if you think to yourself, well, I would like a morning routine, and if you're the kind of person who can get up and do those things in the morning and enjoy that time for you, then brilliant. But if you're not, if you're like me, I borrowed the book off my friend, the Hal Elrod's book about morning routine and savers. I never bothered getting around to reading it because I thought, I'm not going to do this anyway. So it is about making it realistic for yourself. But don't put pressure on yourself because of the shoulds. Becky talked about a few shoulds. We think we should set goals. We think we should have a morning routine. We should be doing all the yoga. We think we should be, drinking all the water. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Do drink the water.
Do drink the water. But, make it manageable. It's not about should. If we're saying we think we should do something, then we have to ask ourselves, do we really want to? And the goals that we're going to stick to, or the intentions, if you don't like the word goals, whatever word suits you, intention setting, whatever it is, but it's about what works for you. Does it feel right? Does it hit you in the heart? Do you feel into it? Are you feeling into it? Because if you're not feeling into it, why are you putting yourself through it?
Yeah. Feeling into it. I love that. I do. And yeah, absolutely. I think the crux of this is we're calling BS on that you have to set your goals in January. Set the goals whenever it works for you. Set the goals, but when it works for you. There's nothing about that it needs to be in January. Take that should away. And if you are a person that wants to start January afresh, then good on you. Do that as well.
Yeah, I always feel like January is a bit of a reset for me, but it's like a personal thing. And halfway through the first week in January, it just feels like you've never had any time off anyway. But January does feel like a reset for me, but I'm prepared to make changes and set new intentions for myself and my business at absolutely any point in time throughout the year, because I quite like change. So I like changing things up a bit. Always come back to the same starting point normally, but I do like change. I like to look at what could be different, and that can happen anytime.
I must admit, I had my biggest reset September time. After I tend to have a longer time off over the school holidays, and I find September a nice bit of a reset.
Yeah, it's always like a
that
second
works for me.
year.
Yeah, that works for me. Probably more than January. And with the way that things are going at the minute, who knows what January is going to look like anyway. Could be another interesting start to the year. So don't put any more pressure on yourself than you need to.
Absolutely. Becky and I weren't sure if we'd be able to meet today to have our Meet Me on the M53 Christmas party. We've met halfway. We've had a ball. We're here. But we would love to wish you whatever 2022 brings. We'd love to wish you a very happy new year. We hope that you'll continue to listen to our podcast. We've got some great topics coming up.
And some great guests.
And some great guests coming up too. Absolutely. So whatever you've got planned for January, if you're busy setting your goals or if you've thrown your planner out the window, great.
You do
that.
You.
You do
You
you.
do you. Happy New Year, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for listening to Meet Me on the M53. If you'd like to know more, you can see Becky at questforest.co.uk and Faye at fayeblakey.com.
Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode, and thank you to Wahoo Media for our production. We'll see you next time on the M53.
Safe travels.